Hello, welcome back to our coverage of the United Nations Climate Conference here in Cancun in Mexico. We've been on the air for about 3 hours 45 minutes, so we're going to wrap it up for the day. But we'll be back tomorrow. Zaina is going on a trip to the woods. She's going to go and investigate what's happening in some local mangrove forests, how they're being affected by climate change, and also some of the measures being taken to save them. So we'll bring a report to you about that on Monday, and actually our entire show on Monday, as far as possible, is going to be dedicated to the issue of forests. So today we've been discussing gender. Monday you can look forward to forests. Tomorrow we think we're going to try and look at oceans, although there's a big conference happening where all the ocean experts are going, so it'll depend whether we can get access to them there, but presuming we can, tomorrow is going to be Oceans Day. I thought I'd finish our coverage by wrapping up the day's news, just giving you a bit of a summary of what's actually going on at the talks here. Negotiators are working hard on updating the texts because next Tuesday afternoon the ministers start to arrive, and it's their job to start signing off on these texts and to make sure that we get some kind of package of agreements coming out of this conference here. So there's two tracks to the talks here. There's one called the Kyoto Protocol track, which is essentially trying to get about 40 rich countries, almost 40 rich countries, to agree to short-term emissions reductions. And there's another track called the Long-Term Cooperative Action track, which is trying to get a global solution to the problem of climate change. And obviously these are both incredibly complex issues, and they're linked together by lots of political difficulties. But we're expecting the chairs of these two sets of talks to produce updated texts possibly tomorrow, or certainly before Monday, which will form the basis of discussion for the next week. So that's something to look out for over the coming days. If you've been following our Twitter feed over the last couple of days, or if you've been checking out the Friends of the Earth website and some other activist websites, you'll have seen that there have been rumours about a secret Mexican text. If you watched our coverage from Copenhagen last year when the last major climate conference took place, you'll remember that the host, the president of those talks, Denmark, produced a text known as the Danish text, and it came in for a lot of criticism because it was felt that it hadn't properly consulted all the parties to the talks, all of the countries taking part in these talks, and that it was outside of the UN process, and it really undermined the kind of the feeling of participation, and that underpins the entire process. So rumours of a Mexican text have caused a lot of consternation, worries that it will undermine the process here. But Christiana Figueres, who's the executive secretary of the UN climate talks, she came out today and she said that these rumours of a secret Mexican text are false, and gave repeated assurances about the participation of all stakeholders. So some good news there. It seems that most people think that the Mexican presidency is doing a good job of hosting these talks, and that they're kind of keeping participation as high as possible. We've discussed over the last couple of days that Japan surprised lots of observers here in the opening day of the talks on Monday. It came out with a very kind of hardline statement saying it would refuse to sign up to a second commitment period of the Kyoto Protocol unless the US and China also joined and also committed to similar cuts to their emissions. It wasn't so much the announcement itself that caused surprise, I think, rather the fact that it came on the first day of the talks, and that it perhaps soured the tone of the discussions so very early on. Today we had our kind of first real fireworks, I guess. ALBA, which is the bloc of countries representing the left-wing Latin American states here, includes Venezuela, Bolivia. They came out and they said that they'd had it signalled to them that unless they signed up to the Copenhagen Accord, which is this controversial agreement which came out of the climate talks last year, that was kind of agreed or led by the US and a few select countries, and which many smaller countries felt was not democratic and was not reached through the UN process. So they've been told that unless they sign the Copenhagen Accord, other countries might not join up to a second commitment period of the Kyoto Protocol. So an angry reaction to that suggestion. If you're watching our coverage of Copenhagen and in Tianjin, where we interviewed Claudia Salerno, who's the ambassador from or the lead negotiator from Venezuela, she's told us before that these Latin American countries would never sign the Copenhagen Accord. She said, today there's no money in the world that can purchase the agreement of Alba to sacrifice Mother Earth. We're not countries for sale. So like a very stern and firm response from Alba. Really coming out and saying that they're not going to compromise on this issue, and they expect rich countries to take a lead. They're responsible for the problems, and their poorer countries are going to suffer first, they're going to suffer worst, and they're going to be most impacted by climate change. So it's kind of a wrap-up of what's happened so far. We're going to be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. local time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 o'clock GMT in the UK. We'll be broadcasting for 3.5 hours. As I say, Zaina, my co-host, won't be with me. She's off to the forests. So hopefully we'll have lots of interesting guests. And please do send your comments in. It's been great today to have so much feedback. It's nice to know when we're doing a good job, and equally when we mess up, please let us know, and we'll try and do a better job. Thanks very much. We'll see you tomorrow.